Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics and Greg Terry Experience co-stream with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce, and unsurprisingly, Greg Terry from his own experience.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome, and so glad. Johnny and I try to do these. Yeah, we're co-streaming, and we are always trying to, at least every couple of weeks, get together and update each other. And for those of you that are new, you do just want to make sure you understand Johnny and I have run the front lines together in Ukraine. We've been in Ukraine together actually twice, and he's a dear friend of mine and a hero for Ukraine in all the sense of the words, not as a soldier, but as a soldier for truth. So yeah, we're going to have a good time. A lot is unfolding, bro. A lot. Holy moly.
Honestly, we could do like a 6-hour live stream here, but we won't. So don't worry.
Yeah, everybody be falling out right now, but I'm game.
There is an awful lot going on, and what I want to do, if you don't mind, Greg, it's a bit self-indulgent in a sense, because I did my normal hits and losses for the people that watch my my content every day. I do a hits and losses video that talks about what's going on the front line over the last 24 hours, what's been lost, what's been blown up, what missiles have hit where. And this morning it was quite a long one because I did a kind of analysis of where I think the war is at, and I had a number of people on my stream saying I'm not really happy that you're a bit down on Ukraine at the moment, and you're saying that they're going to lose and all this kind of stuff. I was like, no, you're misinterpreting me. So can I, Greg, set out how I think the war is going? And my audience will have heard this, but I just want to set the record straight a little bit and see if you agree with it.
I would love to do that, and I think that would be very beneficial for everyone watching and listening. So yeah, let's go for it. So I haven't heard what you did on your hits and losses, so yeah, I'll give you my opinion and follow along with you. I've pulled up a map to my right here, and I'm fully updated up to the minute on everything unfolding. It's 2:03 p.m. Eastern, 9:03 p.m. in Ukraine. Let's cook it, man. We're ready.
Okay, so my position is, like, I always use the analogy these days of two pressure cookers, and both sides are these pressure cookers that have these different variables putting all this pressure on their kind of war effort, and whose ever lid blows off first kind of loses, if you like. So it's a race not to who can win the war, but who can kind of lose first and lose the least worst, right? And because there's no victory, both sides have taken inordinate losses and compared to where they started. Anyway, so for me, the weaknesses of the Ukrainians are personnel and their energy infrastructure. Those are the two main things where they are desperate for personnel. They're okay for material, but they obviously need lots of material. But the two worst things are personnel and energy, and linked to that is their own financial situation, which is desperate. But if they get the big frozen Russian assets loan, then that will help them out, right? So that's what.
All right, let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. Because there's three things you said, and you're trying to bounce it off of me. And I was actually watching the chat, and yeah, there was people there already saying, yeah, he was a bit gloomy this morning. So, all right, here's the deal.
I wasn't.
Here's the deal. You stated three things that we need to draw attention to. Ukraine needs soldiers. Is that what I heard?
Desperately, and that means, just to expand, because I think it's important, Ukraine do not have the soldiers to be able to mount a counteroffensive, which is why they haven't. I mean, it's two things to put to this. It's self-evidently true that they can't mount a counteroffensive because they haven't done one serious one since May 2023, and Zelensky has just come out in the last 24 hours and reiterated that Ukraine are unable to militarily take back occupied territories and Crimea. So, like, he's admitting that.
He said we're unable to militarily take back Crimea at this point. Well, one of those reasons is Crimea is completely surrounded by massive oceans with one little strip of land connecting. I'm just joking. I'm going to what Trump said. But the fact is, Ukraine is deficient on soldiers. This is an advantage that Russia has. So we're going to talk facts only. Does Ukraine need more soldiers? Yes. Do they have the time to equip them and train them? It's more difficult. Are they attempting to do a better job of that? Yes. We've already heard over the last week that Ukraine needs to adjust its mobilization from 30,000 a month to 60,000 a month. The population base of Ukraine is, of course, 20% of Russia, roughly. So you have simple math. So for the soldier question, yes, this is not a war any longer where you can take a ton of armored gear, equipment, machines, man movers, tanks, and make a push anymore. This is a technological war. This is a robotics war. And then it's a mixture in of the air power and ground artillery armored type vehicles. So it's two things you're looking at. A, you could have less people and more stuff and make a move, but the stuff you can't really move with, even if you had an overflow of people right now. This is also like Russia's got so many more people on the front line fighting against Ukraine, but they really struggle to move the line. Okay, that's just the way of this war. And that's why it's such a tragedy that we talk about a capitulation possibility of giving away 25 to 30% of Donetsk Oblast or region, wherein is the most fortified defensive structures that Ukraine has built, which instantly becomes Russian super fortress defensive defensive structures. And on top of that, you lose basically a metropolitan area combined with Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Druzhkivka, and Konstantinivka. So this is, you're accurate. I mean, it is what it is. It's, they need more soldiers.
A little bit more detail then is, so my view is also that they are only capable of doing, and they're doing a really good job of this, but an active defense, which is the in certain areas they'll try and push back. Kupiansk is a good example. Vovchansk, they're actually they are unable, I think, to push a needle too much there, and they're under quite a lot of pressure in Vovchansk, but that's another area you could imagine. And Pokrovsk, which is like, we are losing areas there. We'll try and take some back. There are other areas, even Ivka, around Hulaypole, they've stabilized somewhat, but there's like, they are so stretched so thinly, and people don't, I think, understand how few people are manning these frontline areas on both sides, I think. So my position is the Russians are also struggling for manpower, but in their pressure cooker, you have their economy,
but they have more manpower.
Yeah, exactly. So you have the economy as one of their variables. That's their biggest weakness, and also material and personnel attrition. But they can just scrabble people from up from around the world. They can get North Koreans. They can plug the gaps, and they can just use their people with wild abandon and not care for their lives. And so they can mitigate that issue. So in their
Vladimir Putin just got back from India, where there is a lot of talk that Indian production will be involved in drone manufacturing. We already know that North Korea is nonstop. So this is open. And what's so disappointing is once nations on the West talk about like the Pearl Initiative, or maybe Poland's sending some planes to Ukraine, possibly, or Zelensky just made reference to, we'll talk about later. Any of those things, if that happens, the Kremlin comes out and says, see, the whole world is against us. And that is the fundamental problem, because we do not have a strong leader other than President Vladimir Zelensky, who has the most immense pressure on him that any modern leader has ever faced, between what's coming from DC and the Kremlin and the world in general. The man's under an immense amount of pressure right now and responding beautifully. But if the West does anything, it's instant. I mean, it was today, Zakharova, Peskov, and Lavrov, I had it in my early update, just shredding the West. The only one that understands us is Donald Trump. And that's what they say. And the rest of the world is completely against us. This can't happen. We will defend. If a foreign troop touches Ukraine, we're already prepared to militarily strike against them. This is what Lavrov says. But we can put North Koreans on the front lines. We can just bring in and
800,000 Indian workers that then frees up more Russians. So,
exactly.
So
once again, let me just finish that one thought. We do not have that leader anywhere that has the cojones like President Zelensky, to stand with them arm in arm. There are some European leaders that are doing solid jobs saying, I mean, Merritt's come out and says, listen, I don't like what I'm hearing here. You know, Macron said, hey, we have the cards. Okay, that's great. But then don't get down and lick the boots of Donald Trump. If you're going to stand up and be a real leader. That's what we're missing. It's a key element.
I'll come on to that in a little while because there's lots there to unpack. But going back to sort of the frontline situation, so the Ukrainians have this lack of manpower, very thinly. Like I was talking about, like people think that there are far more people on the front lines, like really on the contact lines, than there probably are. So, you know, Kupiansk, there's probably somewhere between 60 and 200 Russian soldiers in Kupiansk, in the part where they have taken to the west of the Oskil River. Now, that's far fewer than you'd imagine. If you're thinking back to World War II and large armored and personnel forces taking huge cities or towns or whatever, moving through landscapes, that's not what is going on. Both sides actually have relatively few people, but because the Ukrainians have so few defending that, and they're relying more on drones and you know, automation, that if they can punch through those very thinly defended drone corridors, then they can go crazy like they did near Heliopolis. And so it's a very, my point is, it's a really precarious front line that actually both sides are very close to losing quite a bit of land, but the Ukraine just can't build up the forces to punch through Russia. Russia can build up the forces to some degree. So
JP, let me just throw this in there to confirm what you're saying. I agree with you completely. So when you talk about the map, for example, and let's talk about Kupiansk. It's fine. We can talk about Kupiansk, although Ukraine is mounting a small counteroffensive on Kupiansk right now, and it's legit. Okay,
and that's what they can manage.
Let's talk about Kupiansk. Let's just say there's 500 Russians inside Kupiansk, in the area that they actually control. It's nothing. Kupiansk is a large city, 30,000 pre-war. 500 people in there is a ghost town. Okay, that the reality is, for Russia or Ukraine right now, the drones are what control movement. The drones are what control city blocks. Have you seen the videos that are now coming out much more regularly, where both Russia and Ukraine are bringing their FPV drones in, landing them, and then just waiting?
Yeah. Ambushes.
Okay, of course, battery conservation, but more to that, it's just they're just watching. They're just watching. They're not even flying there. They're land them on top of a building, and they're just watching and keeping an eye, and then they'll move out if they need to do battle. This is unprecedented, what we're witnessing. So you can have 1,000 people hold, a square kilometer, or you can have 25 people hold a square kilometer with 1,000 FPV drones. So it's completely different warfare that I think the world is trying to understand and digest. And this is a lot, even referring back to the statements that have come out of the United States Defense Department. Yes, I know it's now renamed the Department of War, but where we are learning, there's so much modern warfare that we are learning. We're indexing all of this new types of strategy that is happening in Ukraine right now with the war with Russia and the development of drone warfare. So for the manpower question, I think we covered that one. You then went to the next.
So just to then finish that off. So what Ukraine need to therefore do is replace men with, women and older people, and all sorts of ways of getting around the manpower issue, and stocking mobile fire teams with, say, people with prosthetics or women or whatever. But they just need loads of people. So they need to replace people with drones, right? With automation, with whatever. And that's what they're doing. So they're trying to substitute humans with drones, but of course that makes it a little bit more difficult to do anything particularly offensive. That's very much more at the moment a defensive thing. So then what Ukraine is doing is, and this is one of the weaknesses, one of the variables in the Russian pressure cooker, is Ukraine is developing ballistic missiles, long-range drones, and missiles, medium range drones, and that's super important, and missiles. So you've got FP2s for the 200 kilometers, and now they're getting some Narwhal cruise missiles, maybe from Czechia. Then they're developing their own FP1s, FP2s, FP5s, now 7s and 9s ballistic missiles coming on. Then they've got Krim 2s, these Sapsan that Zelensky mentioned as well, and Neptunes, right? So then all of these need to be made at scale, and we hear today that Firepoint have admitted that the Russians know exactly where they make their missiles and their drones, and they've been targeted by huge missile strikes twice, but they're building them underground. And so anyway, for the Ukraine, they are taking the war to Russia in these distance munitions. Exactly what I said to you a year ago when we first started talking. This is how Ukraine wins war, is by distance strikes that then hit their economy. So Russia's economy is on a precipice. The front lines, in my opinion, are precarious. So which goes first? And both are playing for time. Russia are playing for time where they can grind on and hope that Ukraine capitulates militarily on the front line or loses more and more land. Ukraine are buying time, waiting for more weapons to come on that can do these big strikes and hit more and more refineries and tankers and depots and this and that until Russia capitulates. Or, you know, it's which pressure cooker goes off first. But basically, that's the kind of calculation, with Ukraine having the backing financially of all these allied nations, Russia not having the economic backing, but now having backing in terms of building stuff from India, China, North Korea, and Iran. And so we are in this kind of world war where we're waiting to see which one goes first. And in the meantime, the US has just kind of swapped sides.
All right, let me interject here.
So that was it.
First of all, Ukraine, you said a lot in there, but you were asking me to dissect some of your statements from this morning. I heard you right at the beginning say Ukraine has a lot of female soldiers and they're growing. Just wait, let me confirm that. That's the truth. A lot. I know, well, that's such a vague word, Greg, a lot. Well, I don't know what other word to give you. I can't give you the exact number, but when I go out and with soldiers, I see many female soldiers fighting right alongside these men. So that's a fact. Now, secondly, Ukraine being able to strike long distance and short. You know, it was Zelensky yesterday saying, listen, we could talk about an energy truce while we're trying to figure out the next phases of this. It brilliantly played. Peskov coming back today and says there will be no energy truce. We don't want a truce. We will have a fully signed peace document, and that's it. Okay. Now, of course, they do not accept Zelensky as a person who can sign that. So now that we have to have elections, Zelensky says, I want election. Trump parrots, okay, you need to have elections. I'm reading 48 minutes ago, the chairman of the Election Commission of Ukraine, his name is Dubovik, just said, just so the world knows, it will take 6 months minimum to prepare Ukraine and organize fair and free elections. So automatically that is, we knew all of that was going to be there, but Zelensky had to say that, but Russia doesn't want that. You then moved into the statement about, you know, this just allows time for the war of attrition to go on from both sides fighting. So there's two things I say to that. A, Vladimir Putin, as I have always said, is all in. He will not back off of having the complete Donetsk region, whether it is given or whether they continue to fight for it for years to come. That's just the way it is. Second, I mean, I could be wrong, but I really doubt it. They're too much in, and this is his legacy right here. So he's going to go backwards now. The second thing the world's been trying to do on that Putin front and about this war is to isolate Vladimir Putin. And for about 2 years, we were isolating him. He never went anywhere. He never did any trips. And now we're seeing them dink, more and more. Went to China. Now he's went to India. Now he's going to be going to Indonesia. So the isolation of the West didn't work. The Kremlin, of course, understands that, and they're green lighted to continue their pathway, the long road.
Isolation didn't work because Trump has changed sides. Sorry to be all
that's well.
Again,
thank you.
But it looks to the United States.
Donald Trump de-isolated, if that is a word, de-isolated, removed the isolation of Vladimir Putin and put him back as a persona on the global stage when he rolled out the red carpet in Anchorage.
Mm. Yeah, and so essentially, like I just want to clarify, I was not saying Ukraine are just about to lose. What I was saying is that Ukraine are not going to mount a military counteroffensive that takes back huge amounts of land. That is simply not going to happen anymore, in my opinion. And Zelensky appears to have confirmed that. And like, you know, if they haven't done it in literally 2.5 years is the last time they attempted a counteroffensive, I don't think they really have that capability. Now, that's not to say that it can't prevail. In fact, I am hoping that there is time for Ukraine to build up their weapons, their long distance weapons, and absolutely hammer the crap out of Russian hydrocarbons and Yelabuga and air bases. I want Engels to go up in flames. I want Milarovo. I want all of these Asaki, Jankoy. I want to see them blitzed. And I think Ukraine, like, all of the weapons they're generating are game changers if they can make them at scale. So just a scaled up bunch of weapons, and they can get some more planes in. I don't know how quickly that can happen, but then you start thinking, right, that's how Ukraine prevails, but Russia prevails by, unfortunately, attrition on the front lines, and then support dwindling for Ukraine in the international scene.
And just to confirm with you guys, if this happens, what is possible? And I see a question in the chat. Kursk on your channel wasn't an offensive. Yes, Kursk was an offensive. Of course, Kursk was an offensive. But right now, about 30 minutes ago, the city of Belgorod, north of Kharkiv, experienced their first blackout. Ukraine hit their power infrastructure today extremely hard, just within the last couple of hours. So Belgorod, large city north of Kharkiv, experiencing a serious blackout in their city. So Ukraine has the capabilities, even under this immense pressure, to bring that to the enemy. But man, Russia is massive. And I'm not talking just about 11 time zones. Oh, well, Greg, 90% of it's just wasteland and villages. I understand that. I've been to Russia many, 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 many times. But there are some massive cities in Western Russia and many regional cities that are large, and their infrastructure is not poor. Johnny, I know you've been to Russia. The reality is it's a massive place that Ukraine's trying to strategically strike. And once again, remember, guys, Ukraine is not in the habit of hitting hospitals and hitting schools. They truly strive to hit military targets, and that makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, and thanks to Scruffy Tails, I can't believe I forgot Kursk. But aside from, you know, what the Romans ever done for us. But apart from that, okay, so we've got two counteroffensives, but essentially, I just can't see that they can build up a critical enough force to try and hit through the Russian or the contact line. But they can do these active defense maneuvers. They can take back, for example, cutting off the Russians north of Kupiansk they're doing it right now, and
they're doing it.
And I'm sure that the Russians will take huge losses, and the ratio of losses is so in Ukraine's favor. Like it really, really is. From all of the accounts I can get from people I've talked to, you know, associated with the front lines and the official statements, the ratio is very much in the favor of Ukraine. But then the Russians have that to give. Like they don't care about their humans, and that's why that's a worrying component. So for me, it's like if Trump had gone the other direction on January 21st and said, we're going to sanction Lukoil and Rosneft, January 21st, do that, and then sanction the crap out of Russia onwards for the next 10 months, Russia's economic indicators at the moment are horrific, right? And they really, really are bad. Like, I know people have said this right throughout the war, but no, it is getting more and more critical. And that's what Ukraine needs to be doing, is compounding those economic issues by hitting their hydrocarbons industry, and then also taking out their military industrial complex. But
I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw this out there. We are at a very strategic point in this war. And Ukraine has had a lot of help. I do not want to minimize that. European nations and, Australia, Asian nations, the United States of America, Canada, and the list goes on, have helped over these almost 4 years. It's a fact. But almost 4 years into war, and you just made the statement, we're getting to that place where, Russia's economy is actually hitting some critical junctures and marks. Okay, this is the time to put the hammer down and to come together as a coalition. But there must be a will to do that, an iron will. And unfortunately, even this new national security document coming out from the United States, basically, a revived Monroe Doctrine where, okay, just forget all of you, we'll take care of our hemisphere. And, Europeans, you're really not our friends anyway. So I just don't, there's no will. There's no will. And that is because one of the reasons the president of the United States loves power, and he is enamored by dictatorships. I am not just throwing this out there. I am telling you guys facts. He is enamored by Vladimir Putin. He is enamored by North Korea. There are two things. Remember the military parade in DC where the hot mic caught Donald Trump saying, I wish my guys would stand up attention like the guys for Kim Jong-un do. And do you know that just last night in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, my home state, Donald Trump was here and he was talking about the border security, and we can't let SHIT whole nations come into our place. Why don't some good Norwegians come into America? Let's not get these SHITTY countries bringing people in. And then he says, look at North Korea. They have the greatest border wall in the world, 7 layers of electric fence. You get past the first one, the second one's going to fry you. Okay. That tells you all you need to know. And I personally wish the United States right now, and I love my country, would just exit the stage. Just sell weapons and exit stage left.
Because as long as they don't help Russia, I mean, this the reason why. I mean, I've just got that North Korean quote up there because I was actually going to talk about that. But I mean, the reason why the Europeans are still bootlicking the United States is because they're worried that if they push the US away too much, then the US will go more overtly onto Russia's side, like lift the sanctions on Russia, and then you can even imagine a scenario where they might start sending weapons to Russia, or lift the sanctions so Russia can do whatever they want, and then that is then it's completely counterproductive. So they're treating Trump with kid gloves because they need him on side enough.
Well, then that's poor leadership in the United States. And I'm not putting that on Europe. I understand why they have to do that, but I've got news for you. Even every poll that's out there, I mean, the Reagan polls that were just using university polls came out and said the support for Ukraine across all party lines, non-MAGA included, is overwhelming. Supply them weapons, help them fight Russia. The support is there.
So when it comes to that national security strategy that was just written, which is essentially like an attack on Europe, it hardly mentioned, well, it doesn't mention Russia in any negative terms at all, which is like all previous national security strategies do. Like, it's obvious China and Russia are normally like enemy number one. No, this time round, it's just like, no, and Europe become the enemy. Now, that was apparently written, it's like Stephen Miller's fingerprints all over it, but apparently there's a chap called Andy Baker, who is the national security advisor to J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance's Munich Security Conference speech, which was basically the national security strategy precursor. Do you remember when he stood up in Munich Security Conference and said, Europe, you are the main enemy with your attacks on freedom of speech? And basically that's what the national security strategy is. Well, Andy Baker wrote that speech for JD Vance, and Andy Baker apparently put all the finishing touches on the national security strategy. And then you're thinking, well, is this huge pivot for American foreign policy as a result of just one wingnut with, do you know what I mean? Like that much importance. Like, are there just very few people who are defining the future of the globe? And Trump, you know, John Bolton came out and said Trump hasn't read the national security strategy. There's absolutely no chance he's read that. And he's probably hasn't even read his own introduction that he's supposed to append. Like, there's no way and he just like sounds off on the sound bites he gets from Stephen Miller. But essentially, like the US has pivoted, and I don't think like the political landscape in the US is at all an agreement, which is why, just to finish this thought off, Greg, the NDAA the other day, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is the budget for the armed forces, put forward the stipulations that the US can't unilaterally pull troops out of Europe, can't unilaterally de-arm Europe, and can't unilaterally do X and Y. And there's also funding for Ukraine in that bill. So that's Congress fighting back and saying, we actually disagree with the national security strategy. So you've got these two worlds existing in the American political scene, and they are in tension with each other, where you've got the isolationist MAGA Heritage Foundation movement against your establishment political, we know where the US stands in the world movement, or should stand.
To layer on top of that, right now, 37 minutes ago or so, US seizes oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. So there you have that. It will continue to push the attention there. And Zelensky about an hour ago saying, okay, thank you, USA, for your help, but Ukraine, we can handle our elections on our own. So I just think what we're seeing right now is a lot of pressure valves that are going to push off, and we're actually going to get clarity from it over the next week or so. But everything that we are seeing is nobody's budging. That's the bottom line. There's rhetoric, there's appeasement going on, there's Europeans, or there's Ukrainians, or there's Russians, or there's Americans. Everybody's trying to say the same thing. While all of that is happening, the war is still raging, and I just don't see anything changing right now. Okay, let me ask you a real question. And probably we'll have everybody sign off and unsubscribe from our channels instantly. But hopefully you don't. That's why I'm asking you the question. If you were Vladimir Putin, would you stop?
No. Like
exactly.
I often put myself in Putin's shoes and imagine myself to be a megalomaniacal dictator.
Yeah,
and I'll be like, I'm laughing all the way. I have Trump in my pocket. I've got his that worldview set of people, the Heritage Foundation, JD Vance, kind of isolationist, yet also expansionist, imperialist. Well, these people, I can manipulate them effectively, and they have produced a national security strategy that is my absolute dream document. And they're getting peed off with Ukraine and demanding stuff of Ukraine, but demanding nothing of Russia. This is brilliant. Like our age-old enemies are now effectively on our side, and they are also demanding that Europe disunites, which is exactly what Putin has wanted. That's what Brexit was about. That's what, like, Putin is loving. I mean, he might not like the economy and the death of all those people, but in kind of, you know, he'd rather
understood
didn't have 1 million dead Russians, but essentially, like everything else in the world is going hunky-dory.
Did you happen to see how giddy the India Today reporters were being around Putin for 3 days? I mean, it was almost like, oh my gosh, we've been able to be around you for 3 days. And then he went to India. There's all these posters up welcoming him. Listen, he's just eating it up.
Did you see that cartoon video from India Today?
Oh yes, I shared it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They just eating it up. And until a bully is popped in the lip, a bully doesn't change. And he's not popped in the lip. He's encouraged.
Very, very simple calculation here from Viggo Hobson in the live chat. You only stop if A, your objectives are achieved, or B, your objectives can be achieved by negotiations, or C, you can't continue. We need to bring about C. Yeah, so the hope here, the single hope here is that I've said the only way Ukraine militarily wins, if you like, or prevails, is with an economic collapse. Like, I'm absolutely, and I've said this for month after month after month, we, as in all of the allies of Ukraine, and particularly the United States, need to be absolutely on Russia in terms of sanctions, and then secondary sanctions for everyone else. But even there, like, unfortunately, Trump has given Hungary and Slovakia an exemption, and Russia is now selling LNG to China with no problems, and so these things aren't being enforced enough.
Well, and if I was to answer that, trying to look at this objectively, it's exactly what Vladimir Putin said 36 hours ago, maybe 24 hours ago. We're going to continue the special military operation until our objectives are accomplished, and we're doing it militarily. I mean, that's exactly that's the Russian talking point right now. Yeah. It's also the Ukrainian defensive talking points, as it should be. We have our goals and we have our operation. That's exactly what Sierski said. Everybody's saying the same thing. The war just rages, and we just let Putin.
Shall I just read you what Zelensky said on Telegram about an hour ago or so? So this is a Zelensky comment, which I think is quite revealing, quite in a number of ways. For tomorrow, we are preparing a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing. More than 30 states that are working with Ukraine for security on land, in the sky, and at sea. Next week, we will coordinate with Europe, and in bilateral formats. Ukraine is working quickly. Every visit, every negotiation, we always have a practical results, primarily for our defense, for our resilience. Today, there's a strengthening of our combat aviation. Thank you. The details are not yet public, but we are constantly adding forces to the sky. So this is the understanding that, this is me talking now, that Poland are giving up probably between 14, 15 MiG-29s out of their fleet that are becoming obsolete.
That's exactly the same I've seen too. It's Poland and it's MiGs.
Yeah. Today, he continues, there is an additional sanctions step in Europe. There will be more sanctions against Russian tankers, against the entire infrastructure of Russian oil transportation. And this is right. Ukraine will present its own package of sanctions against the tanker fleet that is working for war in December. And we will extend this pressure in joint formats with our partners. There will be new steps against Russian propagandists as well. Today, there was a report from the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine, including on the economic situation of the enemy and the growing dependence of Russians on China. In Russian history, no one has ever surrendered sovereignty so much in favor of China or any other stronger nation. And it's phenomenal how much Putin is paying to not end this war. But the world still has enough strength to end this war, to force Russia to do so. Peace is needed. I want to thank everyone who is helping. So again, we're getting this idea that you've got China, North Korea, and Iran with and maybe India with Russia, which is really worrying because that's a really large proportion of the world. And then you've got Europe and what would be and Canada and Australia and Japan. And what would be the United States, and this pivot from the United States is so deeply worrying.
And I'm sorry, but you have to now add Venezuela to that coalition. Because of the military cooperation, the military agreements, the agreements with China and Russia out of Venezuela, and Venezuela sitting on the largest oil reserves on the planet. So you have to add them to that.
But I don't get this, Greg, because this is like, I don't understand the thinking where the US says, oh, we're okay with Russia now, right? Russia, all right, we're going to do loads of deals with that, but we hate Venezuela. Meanwhile, Russia literally have troops in Venezuela training their forces to fight against like what are you thinking in the National Security Council? If you're like, yeah, we're going to be Russia, all right. Oh, by the way, have you heard that Russia are training people to kill us? Yeah, but they're all right. Oh, have you heard that the DHL planes that were going to take those packages bombs on from Germany, Poland, and the UK, we're going to fly to America and maybe kill Americans? Yeah, but Russia, all right. Russia are fine. But Venezuela, like, what? Anyway.
Mark Biscu, I see that going. Please send our love to Xenia. Thank you for that. And I know we'll get to the questions and super chats in a little bit with Johnny, but thank you for that. Will do. And hello to you and Elena there. Also, I want to say before we go any further, congratulations, 2 new mods on my channel, and it's PJ. He's out of Europe, and Oink out of Europe.
Oink.
Oink.
Legend.
Yeah.
Legend.
Legends.
Indeed,
So thank you
he has
guys.
been very kind to you, F Oink, with some incredible amount of memberships there for Greg Terry. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. It's, God, well, my view, God's blessing us with good team here, and for you, the planets have aligned. So,
Yes,
regardless, we've got it covered, guys. We've got it covered.
I
So
rely on
now let me
thanking the humans themselves.
Well, I do thank the humans. I thank them first. But let me say this: when Zelensky talks about long-term sanctions, guys, that doesn't just mean economic. That is code language, and it's open, understood code that means we're going to strike you. He says we when we put long-term sanctions, or long distance sanctions is the better quote, long distance sanctions on Russian oil
He said there will be
infrastructure.
more sanctions. Right, this is quite clever because I wasn't
More,
thinking this.
more
I was
long,
thinking, what
no,
sanctions
more
can Ukraine
sanctions
put
on the Shadow
sanctions?
Fleet. They just hit another one today. So
yeah,
that's why I'm saying you throw all these comments and all of these statements into a mixed bag, you shake it up, we're still at the same exact spot
and the problem
yesterday.
is the red lines. The problem is for the US, for the Trump administration, is that they don't appear to understand the nature of the red lines. Ukraine cannot give up their own territory, and the only way that they could give up their own territory is if they got massively robust security guarantees, which would include troops in Ukraine from the coalition of willing and or NATO, and preferably the US. But Russia have just said there's absolutely yet again they've said there's absolutely no way you can have foreign troops in Ukraine, and our red line is having the Donbass. So like the US, surely you've got to understand that Ukraine can't give up territory without those guarantees, and Russia refuses to give up demanding that territory and won't allow Ukraine to have those foreign troops. That is an intractable situation, and you can't just keep pressuring Ukraine.
No, and Lavrov today made a very proactive statement in that regard, where he unequivocally said, and whether it's true or not is irrelevant, he's saying it. That's the point. This is our red line. Foreign troops, NATO, foreign nations, military cannot be on the sovereign territory of Ukraine. That is a red line for us, and we are prepared to militarily defend against that or strike against that. The plans are already made. No, we're not going to attack Europe, but if foreign troops come into Ukraine, that's a different ball of wax. So I will tell you this, they stay on their talking points, and this is where I'll talk about my own nation. My own nation's talking points, led by I'm not talking about Americans here, but our government, Donald Trump specifically, flip-flops. I mean, like you change your clothes. You do realize it was just a couple of months ago that he's tweeting out that, oh, you know what? I've reevaluated. Ukraine can win this war and even take part of Russian territory. All right. So and I don't want to be disrespectful at all here. So this is not meant to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to paint a word picture here. But his responses to the war in Ukraine, and even to Russia, it's like bipolar, and it just changes. Unfortunately, as it changes, it continues to always change back to what appears to be a pro-Russian sentiment. Yes.
So here's a problem, Greg. Mm-hmm. Yet another problem.
We got lots of problems, JP.
Yeah, but you talk about Venezuela.
Are you going to tipple tonight?
I'm tippling already, although
you're a tippling philosopher.
I can only have less than I've got to just nip down the road and pick up my missus, who's out tonight, which is why we're doing this at this time. So I can only have the one I'm having. It's really important you brought up Venezuela, because actually the US is making inroads into, making, sideways looks at Venezuela, right? The US wants to invade Venezuela to help itself to its oil, right? That is exactly what Russia has done to Ukraine. and it wants Ukraine for its the boon of its territory, right? And so you've got this situation where perhaps the US is going, well, we can't really support Ukraine because we don't have a leg to stand on because we're just about to invade Venezuela, and we can't justify invading Venezuela for their oil if we are taking a moral high ground over Russia and Ukraine. And you're like, well, yeah, that is an absolute, yeah, that they have got themselves into a bit of a bind because it looks very much like they are gearing up to take on Venezuela.
Especially, I mean, when I expect it. I expect it. I do.
Did you hear the Representative Salazar speak about this?
I did not hear that, but everything I'm watching, I'm trying to stay on top of it as much as I can. I fully expect it because it plays right into the plan right now, especially coming out of the new National Security Initiative for 2025, 2026. So, hey, do me a favor. There's some really good questions in the chat. You know, let's do a break right here and go to that because there's some really good ones.
Yeah, I'm just going to run through these super chats. So Richard Bennett, thank you very much. I'm going to be really quick with these because obviously there are two channels, so it's doubling up. So don't take this the wrong way, but just thank you to all these people. Thanks, Mertzi. Thanks to Pirate. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Petra Olsen, one of your
Swedish non-smoking initiative.
Joey, thank you. Jonathan, Greg, may I ask you both a question? Do you think Trump is a Russian asset? It seems to me he's precisely doing what Putin wants for years. I've oscillated all over the shop on this. I've interviewed Zarina Zabriskie. I've interviewed other people on this topic. Exactly. I think that at the very least, he is a useful idiot that is so aligned to the Russian worldview and what Russia wants, and he's this kind of real estate mogul that's accidentally become the most important world leader, that I think he is incredibly easy to manipulate. So at the very least, he is a useful idiot that Putin can so easily manipulate and may have a compromat on. I think it's probably very likely they have compromat on him. I don't know that he's an agent in a like, I want to do this for Russia kind of way.
He's squeaky clean. What are you talking about? He's not in the Epstein files. He's squeaky clean.
Not anymore because he's rubbed his name out. He's got 1,000 FBI agents to go and sit there with Sharpies.
Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit under the weather again. We got horrible weather here, but do you think Trump is a Russian asset? Now my turn. No, I do not think Trump's a Russian asset because I do not think he's smart enough to be a Russian asset. I don't think he has the intelligence to be a Russian asset, and I'm just stating it the way it is. I do think he is ignorant enough to be manipulated and absolutely controlled by his desire for power, and it's just obvious. And listen, I on my channel, I always want to try to bring hope and build people up and bring people together. And, you know, we know where we stand, where I stand, but everybody has a right to their viewpoint, and somewhere in the middle, we can find the truth and mix them all together. I personally believe because everybody brings something to the table, but I'm just here to tell you as an American and you know, multiple generations of American military in my family, many world war veterans, won in World War II, in Vietnam, in Korea. And my family fought in the Civil War on both sides. I mean, it's there. Love my country. But I'm telling you, when the president of the United States will sit at a table asleep and then raise his head and look at a reporter and say, you are stupid, you are an idiot, you are a moron, I've got news for you. That person that is stating that has a psychological mental problem that needs to be removed from office. He is not representative of real America, and he is a disgrace to my country.
Okay. Good segue here for what Michael Lanning says.
He's not smart enough to be an asset. He's dumb enough to be controlled.
Yeah, so he's an asset from Russia's
Share that to the White House, please.
Yeah. Michael Lanning says, so Michael Lanning is referencing Trump said the other day on True Social yesterday that he aced 3 cognitive tests, right? He's had these MRIs that he's not told anyone what he's got them for. He keeps falling asleep. He's got bruises on his hand. We know that at least one drug for Alzheimer's you can often take through your hand and it makes you sleepy. He's saying that he's aced these cognitive tests. Why would you? And he's and in the True Social post, I should bring it up. I've got it somewhere. He
Please
says,
don't.
okay, I will bring it up. Here it is. So I did have this ready. No, because this is really important.
Please do, because I do have one
so,
comment on that. Yes.
So he said, I mean, this is an awful lot here. And it actually is so long, I don't even have the end of it. But he says, in addition to all of that, I go out of my way to do long, thorough, and very boring medical examinations at the Great Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, seen and supervised by top doctors, all of whom have given me perfect marks. Some have even said they have never seen such strong results. I do these tests because I owe it to our country. In addition to the medical, I've done something that no other president has done on 3 separate occasions, the last one being recently, by taking what is known as a cognitive examination, something which few people would be able to do very well. I mean, that's a joke, including those working at the New York Times. And I aced all 3 of them in front of large numbers of doctors and experts, most of whom I do not know. I've been told by a few people have been able to ace that examination and blah, blah, blah. So he has just admitted taking 3 cognitive examinations effectively for Alzheimer's. Take not just once, but he's taking it 3 times and in front of loads of people. So there are lots of people actually looking at this, at him doing that. Like, you don't, he's a bit of an idiot here, because he's thinking this proves that he's proud of it. So he thinks this gets me off the hook. Whereas, like, you would only have those cognitive exams if someone was worried about you and said, yeah, I know this because my dad's got dementia. And we have made my dad go and have cognitive tests. And I made him take another one the other week, right? Because we were worried about his degrading cognitive abilities. I've reported my dad to the DVLA, right, to the driving organizations, because I'm worried about his driving, and he's been forced to do the test, which he passed, so I've done my job type thing. But the point is that, like, you only get made to do these things, and you only go and have an MRI I've had like 7 or 8 MRIs, right? Because I've got multiple sclerosis and I've got prostate cancer, right? So, like, I go and have an MRI to check me out for these issues. I don't just walk into a doctor's and they go, oh, JP, good to see you here. I haven't seen you for a couple of years. Do you fancy an MRI? Do you know, for a laugh? You know, no reason, but we've got like 6 spare MRIs going on now. So I just thought you might want to have a giggle. Go and have a bit of a buzz in one of those bad boys. That doesn't happen. So you only get booked into an MRI and to 3 cognitive tests if there's something wrong with you.
Let me just give experience. I completely agree with you and concur. It's not normal. And once again, this comes to his narcissistic values that he has to be right. He has to be perfect. I'm the greatest. It's the greatest results ever, whatever. Okay. I colored with the crown. It was red. It's the most beautiful red ever, whatever. So let me just give you a personal experience. Donald Trump is 79. My mother-in-law is 81. My mother-in-law has pre-dementia. Okay. We've never given her a cognitive test because I don't need to give her a cognitive test. It's obvious. Okay. But here's what she does. She will get angry at something in a New York minute and attack. Yeah.
So and
secondly, she always walks around the house and goes, look at how good I did on that. I planted that plant. It's perfect. I did perfect on that. It's the same 2 things that he does every day. I did something great, and I did something great, and you lash out in anger. So all you have to do is watch the behavior. It's obvious. And, you only have to defend something so many times if you're actually really struggling with it. So once again, anyway.
Have you ever seen the film The Great Escape? One of the classic war films, right? The Great Escape.
Yes.
Right. So in that, I always think about with these times when, say, Donald Trump's trying to prove himself by saying, "I've had these." Donald Pleasance loses his eyesight in a film, and then was it Richard Wagner, who's the guy that flies him in the airplane? Anyway, the American takes him. He loses his eyesight, and he tries to prove that he hasn't lost his eyesight by putting a pin in the middle of the floor. And he walks up and he bends over and he picks up the pin because he knows exactly where it is, and he's he's practiced that. And I just feel that every time Donald Trump is trying to prove himself to be cognitively sorted, it's like Donald Pleasance putting that pin in the middle of the room and showing everyone else that he really does have good eyesight. Anyway, but yeah, so I think this is serious, and goodness me, if the shoe was on the other foot and this was Biden, people would have gone mental. Have you seen the different montages of Fox News reacting to Joe Biden shutting his eyes and Trump being asleep? You've seen montages of them. Fox News go to town on Joe Biden when he was in his tenure, and they absolutely excoriate him.
He calls him Sleepy Joe Biden. Well, I call Donald Trump Sleepy Gonzalez. So there you have it. All right. And it's just reality. So stop trying to paint the picture a different way. I mean, yeah, Biden was sleeping. Donald Trump is sleeping. And it's unbelievable that we are allowing this person to just really dictate policy globally right now, because that's what we're watching. And but that's why we're in the state we're in. Just look at the world, guys. Look at the world. And we're still in year one of this administration. But we shall see what unfolds. I'm deeply concerned for my country right now. Deeply.
Me too, mate. The pirate to the fund for Xmas Port.
There's the pirate.
I've read that one out because Mark from the Little Whiskey Shop is here. I just put an order in and he's run out of my favorite white port, so I had to buy a different one. But thank you very much, the pirate.
Tito Valenzuela, Slava Grangerum, Slava do Permogi. He's from Honduras. Tito Valenzuela.
Oh, rather controversial. Yeah, we're only blowing up boats because we're so afraid of these drugs coming into the US. Oh, by the way, at the same time, we're going to pardon the Honduran president who's responsible for 400 tons of cocaine coming across the border, which he said, well, I want to stick up the gringos' noses. And whatever. Anyway, don't get me started. New, thank you for being
Grandma.
there. Michael Duchart.
No, that's Germany. I don't know, man. I got so many in my head.
So thank you to all of these good people. Thank you to
Kurt Brubaker, one of my mods, Cypher 3,
Stephen Bendell. No doom and gloom. May the force be with you. Yeah, remember, I was not doom and glooming, but what I want to be is accurate. We need to understand the calculation of what's going on in the war to understand why each side is doing what they're doing, and why the focus might be here, and why you're not seeing big offenses, and why so on and so forth. It's not dooming; it's just trying to be accurate. But thank you, Stephen. Johnny Eichelman, thank you for your Norwegian love there for Greg. Mark Bizq, this is thank you very much, Mark. I'm certain Putin told Trump to expedite matters because Putin's economy is hanging on by a thread and Trump is obliging. And this is where it gets interesting, Mark. And to your previous question, Greg, about is he an asset? Is there a sense that actually Putin can? I think Putin can pressure Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner because they're just interested in making money. Neither of them care for the moral outcome. Neither care for Ukraine in any way. Trump doesn't care for Ukraine. They just want to make money. So I think they can be manipulated. Yes.
I want to interject here something that people may not think about. And this is what we try to bring to the table every day. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States has Stephen Witkoff, Jared Kushner negotiating directly with Vladimir Putin, while the only member of our cabinet who actually has this job, the Secretary of State, who, if anybody in this administration could make a difference, it would be Marco Rubio, is sidelined. And then after the meeting, ladies and gentlemen, did you hear Vladimir Putin come out and say, Trump's son-in-law was really good? I was really impressed with Kushner. Ladies and gentlemen, Putin did that on purpose. He knows exactly how to stroke the ego. Who will now go back and have the next round of talks? Witkoff and Kushner. Why? Because, Putin said Kushner was good. So, yeah, that's great. He'll do a good job. I'm in Egypt, and, I know Witkoff doesn't have an experience, but I feel it in here. That's who needs to be negotiating. So it's hard to play chess with Putin when you're on a checkers board. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
So I agree with that. Mark,
thank you. Thank you, Mark. Definitely. Christine McDonald, thank you on Grace's behalf. You can all support Ukraine people on here from the Scottish Tartan Terrier. Ukraine. Thank you to Zeb Carter, super generous of you, mate, and the pirate again. Viggo Holmson, we go for C. I'm not sure what that's reference to. It seems that, says Putin Puppet, the MAGA Krasnov US doesn't care much about the current polls anymore, as they gamble probably on rigging, etc. I do wonder about that in the 2026 midterms, seeing the fast dismantling Russification in only 3 quarters. Can I have a quick political aside here?
Please, because I would like to give one as well. Since we're just doing a big live stream here, I've got one too for you.
So in case people didn't realize, last night there was a mayoral election in Miami, and it went to a Democrat for the first time in 30 years. And it was a non-Cuban, non-Latin Democrat, Eileen Higgins, and she won by a really comfortable margin, all things considered. Then you had a state Senate, I think, a state representative in Georgia.
State of Georgia.
Yeah, so Georgia, but one of their districts. So it wasn't actually a congressional vote, but it was a state vote. But actually, they gerrymandered the district in 3 ways, and still a Democrat won. And basically, you had 60 down ballot elections since January this year that have gone to an average of 13 points to the Democrats, which is an average. So many of them have gone way more than 13 points. That's an average for 60. There have been 25 25 state level elections, and there have been 25 flips going from Republican to Democrat, and the question is, how many have gone from Democrat to Republican? How many flip the other way? And the answer is 0. So the Democrats are 25-0 up in terms of flipping seats in different elections. So the point is that the Republicans need to be super worried at the moment. There's a long time until the midterms. If the midterms were tomorrow, the Republicans would be absolutely in all sorts of trouble. And it's going to be largely about the economy. He's screwing the economy, and it doesn't look like he's stopped publishing GDP data, inflation data, and jobs data. He's literally cancelled. Like, as soon as you start cancelling the reports on how well you're doing, you're not doing well. So he's got a year to get it back together. Otherwise, he is in serious trouble.
You listen to me. You're living in the UK. Don't talk about my economy. Our economy is perfect. We have 0 inflation. Gas is below $2 a gallon. The Thanksgiving meal was 25% cheaper. Yes, you had to buy the off-brand and it was 5 less items, but don't worry about that. It was cheaper. There was more money spent on Black Friday than ever in the history of the world. That is because people were buying less and everything cost more. So listen, if you're going to talk about the greatest economy on the history of the world, then you better bring your facts, Mr. Pierce, because it is the greatest. There is no inflation. There is no inflation. Everything's great. That's the greatest healthcare in the world. Just because I'm thinking about it, it's going to happen. Listen, the candidate from Miami was the big thing here is the Republican candidate was actually backed by Trump and lost.
Yeah.
The candidate in Georgia was not backed by Trump that lost, but was in that field. But the Miami mayoral candidate was actually endorsed and backed by Trump. Now, here's the other thing that I just throw in this political sidebar for 5 minutes, and that's this. The lady that wore her white fur coat so that it could accentuate her red MAGA hat, that screamed at the presidential State of the Union addresses out loud, standing to the point of where she had to be asked to be seated in madness and joy and worship of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, Donald J. Trump. has completely flipped 100% on Donald J. Trump. And I'm talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she is pushing the envelope hard, coming on interviews, media moments, her social media, and saying, listen, he calls me a traitor. I'm Marjorie Taylor Brown, because Green, when it wilts goes to brown, whatever, is he's derogatory to everybody. It's not Gavin Newsom, it's Gavin Newscum. Even I completely disagree with a lot of Newsom politics, but I'm not going to call him Newscum. Come on. He's a human being. Regardless, Marjorie Taylor Greene is called a traitor by Don. No, it's not. But listen, you've got to talk about her. She was the MAGA flag, man.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is it's not just her, because Nancy Mace, who's one of hers as well, like similar to her in many respects, just wrote an op-ed in the New York Times slagging off Mike Johnson, like going to town. And so Mike Johnson came out recently, and I know this is kind of your wheelhouse, but he was interviewed recently by Stephen Miller's wife, and was talking about the position of women and how women shouldn't do X, Y, and Z and whatnot, and this kind of Christian nationalist positioning, which has actually wound up people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace, who's like, well, we are female legislators, and we actually find it really hard to do any work with Mike Johnson because he's a bit like this. But where I'm going with this is you're getting an awful lot of criticism of Mike Johnson now, and that's because no one's got the guts to criticize Donald Trump. So any criticism of Mike Johnson, guaranteed 90% of that is a proxy criticism of Donald Trump. Honestly, like, believe you me, like, you will find lots of people attacking Mike Johnson for the state of things going on and for Congress not being able to do X, Y, and Z. But that's because no one's got the full guts to go hard on Trump. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene is quite critical of Trump. She was on CNN with Wolf Blitzen again, and that was a really good interview, really interesting interview. But she holds back on Trump sometimes, even though he's been really horrible to her. But goes at it on Mike Johnson. He is the fall guy, Mike Johnson, for the Trump regime.
Yes. I'll tell you what's going to be interesting. We can get back to Ukraine. What's going to be interesting is I think it was yesterday, the day before, Jasmine Crockett now is going to run for Senate in Texas. Let's see how that unfolds. And I'm not predicting.
Yeah, that's okay. Last bit on American politics here. That's probably not a good idea for Democrats. So there's a couple of so she's in quite a crowded field because you've got Colin Allred, who's already run in Texas, so he's got some experience, and you've got a guy called James Tallarico.
That's my point.
James Tallarico is a white Christian that is a progressive white Christian, and so through his white Christianity can appeal to a lot of Texas Republicans in a way that probably Jasmine Crockett won't. So the Democrats need to be careful there of picking.
Is there a difference between a white Christian and a black Christian?
When it comes to the ballot box in Texas, possibly.
Okay.
So when it comes to attracting certain votes, then unfortunately, the way that it is, it means you will have certain,
let me ask you a question. Is there a difference between a white atheist and a black atheist?
Well, one is correct and the other is correct. No, there isn't. No, it's fine.
I'm just having fun with you.
Oh, I know. So anyway, that's put all of that to bed or something. So we're back to saying thank you to everyone. Thank you to Mark Biscu.
Done. I commented on that. Thank you, Mark and Elena.
Yeah, absolutely. And for myself, so that's for you, towards filling JP's wine cabinet and to support the Little Whiskey Shop. And I did. And do you know what, Mark? I bought two bottles of Ukrainian wine because Mark at the Little Whiskey Shop sells Ukrainian wine and gives a little bit of that to Ukraine. So that's a little plug for the Little Whiskey Shop. It's
Mark's
UK-based
a great
wine.
guy. I've met him. In Kyiv. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's Mark from the Little Whiskey Shop, not Mark Biscu, who's also a great guy. The Weasel.
Yeah, Mark from the Whiskey Shop. Yeah.
No notifications from either channel. Don't know why that is. We've been working on that. No tips, coffee, or chats on Greg's channel. So
I think everything's working right, but YouTube is goofy sometimes.
Da Vinci, can Moldova and Europe together intervene in Transnistria? So there are some rumors. I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but there's some rumors that Russia are going to try and strike in Sumy at like sewage plants and stuff like that up there. There are also rumors that they're getting ready to launch drones from Transnistria, and they're training drone pilots. They've obviously got like 1,500 Russian troops there. They've got a lot of kit.
I'll tell you, this is really interesting. I saw that question. I knew you would be bringing it up on the chat there. So yes, I can tell you, Russia will definitely be striking at the sewage infrastructure of Sumy. They're hitting Sumy every night now, very, very hard with drones, and it's very close. It's not a problem.
Across the border.
Drones, it's just across the border. I'll tell you what, can Moldova and Europe together intervene in Transnistria? Well, first of all, Moldova can't do it alone. They have very, very limited resources militarily. Would Europe do it? No. If Europe will not intervene into Ukraine, Europe will definitely not come into Moldova. But could they? It would be great. In fact, I think it's a really good idea. I think we ought to just take Transnistria and push those Russians out and put some blue and yellow on the map there. Moldova would love it, I can tell you that. And it would be interesting to see what kind of response would happen. But, I think that way. I personally think we should be, completely throwing everything and the kitchen sink at Vladimir Putin. It's the only way you're going to back him down. So I guess that's why I'm not a defense planner, but I think it's a great idea.
Interesting to see, and sorry, this is a complete aside now, but there's a big St. Petersburg market that's burnt completely up today.
It's on fire right now, massive. And as I said earlier, guys, Belgorod has been hit extremely hard tonight, to the point of where a lot of the city has been blacked out. And let me tell you something, guys. I've been in cities in Ukraine blacked out. It's not fun. I know you see the pictures like of Kyiv on social media, and all you see is the headlights of the car and everything's black, and you'll see a few lights on in the windows, and you'll ask the question, okay, if it's blacked out, how are those lights on the windows? Those people have batteries or they're using inverters. But let me tell you something. When you're out in the streets of Kyiv, and I've been in Khmelnytsky, and then especially out in the war zone out east or south, and it goes dark, it's an eerie feeling, just let me tell you. So for Belgorod to be blacked out tonight, they're feeling it. The people are feeling it.
I forgot to mention earlier that the latest news actually from this afternoon is that I think Mertzstarmer and Macron has spoken to Trump on the phone, and there's a lot of conversation that's taking place to do with reconstruction. So I imagine that's going to be involving big investment contracts going on after the war. I don't know. I've heard much about security guarantees, but reconstruction's been on the cards. What's that, mate?
Okay, JP, we've got to show this. I will load it up on my back end. You keep talking here.
Okay.
I can't believe. I know I've got everybody baited now. I don't mean to bait you. I can't believe. I just can't believe that. There you go. Make sure the volume's up hot. So Donald Trump confirming we just seized the Venezuelan tanker, but it's not just a big tanker. It's the biggest tanker ever seized.
You probably know we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela. Large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that.
The largest tanker ever seized.
He's a comedian's dream, and this is why the comedians they're a bit sad when they're a bit sad when Trump goes away, because he provides so much content. And the same for me. I'm like, goodness me, I don't know what would take up most of my day if Trump ceased to exist. But you could just I could bet my mortgage that he would do something like, and he stopped. It's a big tanker, it's a big tanker,
the biggest ever seized.
It's the biggest ever. I mean, with and I piloted that, and I was the best driver ever. I drove it around these combes in the sea, and I did it quicker than anyone has ever done it. And I did it whilst telling a whole bridge full of doctors that what a camel was, what an elephant was, and I could do it all in the right order whilst driving this massive, biggest tanker ever. And then yeah, whatever. So Daryl Thomas.
Are you familiar with Semaphore?
The website, the media site.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
They're putting out information now that the reason Rubio has been sidelined in the Ukraine-Russia deal is because he's really been trying to turn Trump against Putin. But he's just been unable to do so. So he's basically sidelined in this thing now.
Wow. That wouldn't surprise
me. That's from Semaphore reporting that now.
Interesting. And
it is. I believe that
totally
actually
makes sense. Yeah. Totally makes sense.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, everything that Rubio said on Russia prior to 2025 has been really, pretty bog standard American positioning on Russia. So, he must be. How many times have we said that the soul has left his body and he's died in the eyes when sitting with Putin talking about things like this? Daryl Thomas says, have you considered flipping the script? Is it Putin stalling the peace for Trump to get all his pieces in place, controlling every US city before announcing he is king? Well, I suppose both of them work in some kind of lockstep, whether it's intentional or not. I mean, both of them. Trump wants to be Putin. He wants that kind of control over his own country. And, talking about moving troops into different cities and talking about, as you said, that hot mic with Ducey on board the plane where he said, I want my people to stand up with a straight back.
On the military parade.
Yeah. And so on and so forth. It's just they are peas from the same pod, really, or at least they want to be. Thank you, Daryl. Wizard of Ooze, astrology warns Putin with Mercury rising and Taurus in Uranus. Your days are numbered. I'm not going to make any comment on that, Wizard, but thank you, my Australian friend. The Russians have compromise on Trump. Guaranteed, says a pirate. Yep, I think that's highly plausible. Putin puppet signed a petition for UK defence border monitoring and rear area logistics support to Ukraine. So Mark, who we talked about from the Little Whiskey Shop, has a petition that he's put together, which is change.org, and he's hoping to get a proper UK government one. If you go to atpgeo.com/UK petition, so atpgeo.com/UK petition, you'll be taken to this website, which is the petition that he started up. It's only just started. Oops, no, where's it gone?
Okay.
I need to add it to say, there it is. It's only just started, so we've only got 100 signatures. But if anyone from your channel and my channel can just take time, please, to sign this.
Blonde Bombshell, if you can grab that link and just throw it in the chat, that'd be great. Thank you.
And basically this is to ask for, in the UK context, our government to consider sending our troops to help with logistics routes at the back, whether it be air defense or whatever it is. And Mark has really set this out very well, put the request in, the summary, the humanitarian benefits, the risk mitigation, the legal basis, and the NATO framework in order for this to happen. And then once it gets up and running, if the UK government petition site allow it through their vetting process, then it becomes formalized in UK, because if you get 100,000 signatures, they have to discuss it in the House of Parliament. Mm-hmm. This has just happened with, what was the last one we did with the UK? Russian interference in UK politics has now got over 100,000 signatures, so they now have to discuss that in UK Parliament. So thank you very much for reminding me of that, Putin puppet, and if you can share that on different platforms, that'd be fantastic, and different channels. So Kostivo here, thank you, brother. Your Romanian brothers stand with Ukraine, even if we had some disagreements in the past as neighbors. So that's really good from a Romanian there on your channel. Pirate again, could
Fantastic.
Europe use the selling of bonds to have an effect? Do you mean have an effect on the USA? Because at the moment there is a theory that Europeans and British, and indeed Canadians and Japanese, if they get too disillusioned with the US, if the US keeps attacking Europe, for example, Europe could retaliate by selling off bonds, and that could really destabilize the American economy in some serious ways. So the Europeans do have leverage against the Americans, even if it seems that they are fairly impotent in many other ways. One of them is something like $2.35 trillion of American debt that Europe combined owns. And if you start offloading that, then things get a bit jittery for the Americans. Normality Remembered says, I don't understand why the EU and UK aren't able to send troops in to support when North Korea and others happily send their troops to support Russia. Yeah, absolutely. And it's also the sort of thing, yeah, on the point of Russia saying that's the red line.
It's called fear. That's the reason. And it's called weak leadership. They are afraid of Putin's red line. And you can't say
I disagree.
Well, you just have to disagree because, okay, if you were president, would troops be in there?
So, no, the reason I disagree is I disagree of the fear bit. You think they're afraid of Putin's red lines. I don't think they're afraid of Putin's red lines. They're afraid of domestic electorate and sending domestic troops over to a foreign war zone and how that will sit with their electorate.
With that. Then I would think that's in there as well. I agree with that. But because there is no way that these nations are not afraid. I'm not saying, let me rephrase that. The ones that could make the proper decisions, the leaders, they have his words in the back of their head because, man.
But he hasn't got a leg to stand on. Like the logic is very clear. Like you have North Korean troops in Russia fighting against Ukrainians. Why can Ukrainians not have European troops in Ukraine, not even fighting against Russians, but actually defending civilians against, this and that with air defense systems or whatever? So
I completely agree. It's
frustrating.
Then let's at least call it a mix. There's got to be fear in there. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so it is your fear of your domestic, what'll happen at home, and you're fearful of what could happen escalatory wise in Ukraine. So I think all of it, because
we just had a British soldier die who's just been named in Parliament, and he died observing supposedly a defensive weapon or a weapon being used far from front line. But that's serious enough that that gets talked about in Parliament and whatnot. So you can imagine if we sent troops to Ukraine, how much of a storm that would be kicked up. But I think it should happen though.
But sir, with all due respect, in World War II, nations finally had enough. And sent their boys off to war. So that you and I and our parents and hopefully one day our children could grow up in a free world.
That's really
interesting. Have a good future. And we are at a stage right now where there is not the moral fiber or the backbone in leaders. They're more concerned about the dollar in their pocket and the vote in their home district versus standing up for what is right morally in this world. And because of that, generations will reap the repercussions of this for years to come. It's so sad. It's weakness exponentialized.
It's probably not the time and place to talk about this, but I wonder whether there is a societal difference now between 1939, for example, and 2025, whereby are people more empowered and more individualistic and more, I don't know what it is in society where you're like, I no, that's their problem type thing. No, we just worry about ourselves. And do you know what I mean? Whereas like back then, countries were more willing to send their people across to do certain things. That maybe
I did see it go by in the chat. No, Japan attacked. I understand Japan attacked, but we made the decision to go into two fronts of war, not just Asia. We had two fronts. We had the Southeastern Asian front fighting Japan, and we had the Axis in Europe fighting against Hitler. So I understand we were attacked, but we had to make the decision to send our boys off to war.
Steve saying, thank you always, Pastor Greg and Champion Zhenya, for all you continue to do for the people and soldiers of Ukraine. Give my love to Zhenya when you speak to him, Greg.
Yes,
the Pirate says you should do a Q&A, guys, from the communities. Yes, I'm going to do a Christmas. I might even do a members only pub chat round the table Q&A session, because I do nothing for my members, not nearly enough. And so
I agree. I need to do the same. In fact, on my Discord, if you guys haven't joined our Discord or Johnny's Discord, please do so. Links are in the description. I've been dropping in to guys in there chatting and dropping in and enjoying talking with you guys. It's good.
Yeah. And Stephen Bendal here: finance Ukraine's own production. Kinetic sanctions is effective. Effective sanctions. Glory to Ukraine. It's all about Ukraine scaling up production of weapons that they can use without seeking permission. It's like, how long have I said this? They just need to be building cruise missiles and ballistic missiles and medium and long range.
And ladies and gentlemen, they are. They are. And the job right now is to keep those locations quiet and silent. I mean, I was even frustrated by Sky News and the report they gave, and they gave access to that reporter who was underground with Azov. That was too much for me. It's too dangerous now, even not for the media safety, of course, but I'm talking about just giving up locations, traveling. I mean, there's so many eyes in the sky and ears on the ground. Operational security, if you thought it was important year 1, it's now overload important year 4.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I was just trying to find the quote from Stillerman. I think it was
Troy Shoemaker. I'll get this one while you got it. Canadian 1399. Greg, what are your thoughts on Zelensky's potential picks for chief of staff? So we've heard different ones tossed around, but the latest, and of course one of them being Budanov, but the latest I actually heard was, that is the last I heard as of 3:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, December the 10th, is that position is tabled right now. So that,
by the way, tabled means something different in the US than it does in the UK. So tabled means off the table, whereas we say it means on the table. Just to explain,
on pause, on pause,
yeah,
on pause,
yeah,
on pause right now, not removed, paused.
He's essentially not appointing anyone at the moment. But one of the reasons he says is because he doesn't want to replace the people in the positions that whoever he chooses, their position that they would have been otherwise carrying out. So yeah, anyway, I'm just trying to find.
While you're doing that, I can confirm for you guys, Trump had a conversation with Stoltenberg, Merz, and Macron today. 40-minute. Stoltenberg. Sorry. Rutte.
Okay.
Merz and Macron, conversation lasted 40 minutes. And also Ukraine has transmitted to the United States its revised peace plan this afternoon or this evening.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to find where we are. This is what I wanted to show you earlier. Oops, no, not that.
No, Gerasimov was not fired. I don't know where. Gertis and I did a piece on that. I really, and I know Chuck Farrar does a lot of really good stuff. So nothing on Chuck. I just don't know where that information came from. It's not accurate in anything I've seen whatsoever. In fact, Gerasimov was just out on a visit yesterday.
The 5-point technical director said Russia knows exactly where in Ukraine the Flamingo missiles are produced. Quote, there have already been 2 large strikes on our workshops. There's also a claim that I don't know if I've got it. No, I've got something about there was a post I had to share with you in my military aid update where they're talking about building these things underground, which, as you can imagine, they'd definitely be doing.
Well, I can tell you guys confirmed 100%, and I will not say what kind or where, but I can confirm to you over the last year that multiple drone production facilities have been struck inside Ukraine. It's a fact. The same as Ukraine has struck drone production facilities in Russia. Russia has also struck and damaged drone manufacturing facilities.
And that's why I'm sure that scaling up hasn't happened.
To be quiet. My chair.
So Ivan Gilbert, so thank you very much there for your support, mate. Zippy Zip, thank you for your support. We have Pirate again. Thoughts, guys, on Zelensky's holding a vote and asking for security to get this done. We've kind of mentioned that. We've gone through that today in terms of holding an election. So yeah, we did talk about that at the beginning.
I got a great question in my chat. When will you send your kids, Greg? Actually, my son is biting to go. I won't let him. But I have been there 17 months of this war. So I think you're asking the wrong question to the wrong person. Maybe try that one on somebody else's channel that is pro-Russian. I have to make my son not go with me. So wrong channel, dude.
Julian Roster, thank you very much for your support and your rather tongue-in-cheek statement there. I appreciate that, mate. For F Oink contribution to your channel, Greg, for defending democracy, moral values in Europe. That's a really generous Hungarian florin.
It is, and I have to be honest with you on Oink, and also we also have PJ helping. So thank you. They've joined the team with Blonde Bombsheller and Dunk and Pyro Kurt, and we have other Skeghead in Australia. Jeffrey Burnett in California, but I actually got to see F Oink on a video chat, and he just matches that name 100%. That's all I'm going to say. He's a legend. So I'm just happy to say that.
Pirate sent a proposal to the Norwegian government at on the start of a fund to help Ukraine long term. Take out some money of our wealth fund, invest it in the future of Ukraine. No answer so far on it. To be fair, Norway are really coming up with a lot of the goods really in long term support for Ukraine. They've got 5-year plans in place. They are using their I assume they're using a sovereign wealth fund in one way or another to support their support for Ukraine. They understand that the war has lined their pockets in terms of sending oil prices surging, and therefore all that money that comes from the North Sea oil fields that go into, they take a cut of that, it goes into Norwegian sovereign wealth fund. They understand that they've done well out of the war, so they are helping out to a very significant degree as a result. Troy Shoemaker, thank you. What are your thoughts on Budanov and President Zelensky's potential chief of staff? You've answered that one.
I did answer that, and that is on pause for now. But to answer your question, I see positives and negatives in it, and not about Budanov. Budanov's doing a good job where he's at. I think that's just going to be on pause right now while the rest of these questions are answered that are Ukraine resubmitting the peace plan back to the United States, the election chatter that's going on. These are going to dominate. Now, of course, Zelensky tonight talking about long-range strikes continuing, new planes coming in. Those are much more important issues right now than President Zelensky's chief of staff. And I think instead of just trying to get somebody in that position, they're going to make sure that they get the exact perfect person in that position.
That said, Yermak would have done so much for Zelensky. I'm sure there'll be a big Yermak-sized hole in Zelensky's life right now. Like, Zelensky's a super busy man, and you need to delegate, and you need people really doing a lot of heavy lifting for you.
Yermak did 90% of the travel.
Yeah. And I do think that he will be sorely missed. You say what you like about Yermak, but just from a purely human, practical point of view, Yermak will be sorely missed by Zelensky. Karen Spennock here has a really great question, because actually this kind of links us back to the beginning. We come full circle. So she says, if Russia had the means to escalate, would they not already be doing so? This is the same for both sides. I always say, my mantra, my team will know this: you would if you could, you aren't, so you can't. Right? If Russia aren't sending 500 drones a night, it's because they can't send 500 drones a night. They stockpile, send 500, then it's 100, 200, 100, 100, 500, 400. Okay, that's terrible, but at least they can't do 500. And then if they did do 500 every day, or at least they can't do 1,000. But they would if they could. And Ukraine would be counterattacking with huge amounts of troops if they could. And Ukraine would be hitting them with more cruise and ballistic missiles if they could. Right? Or they're stockpiling. It means they can't send them and stockpile. So you can do one or the other. And it's same with Russia. So yeah, absolutely. So why she asked this question is a kind of red line thing. Like, there will be consequences if you do this. If you use frozen Russian assets, there will be consequences. If you have troops inside Ukraine, there will be consequences. Well, other than nuclear missiles, what are the consequences? Because if you could do more than you are doing now, you would be doing more than you are doing now.
And I agree with that. The only thing I would add to it is definitely, if Ukraine had more resources available, they would definitely be doing more. And for sure, this shows that Russia has limits. We know that Russia has had drone factories struck. We know that they've had production issues, and Johnny explained that perfectly. But at the same time, Vladimir Putin wants this war to continue, guys.
Yeah.
So for him, it's not really the factor of life. They paint that picture that it is, but it's not. There is no factor of life for him. There's just the factor of this narrative that is being pushed so hard that they cannot back up from, and he and those that are around him keeping him in power, they like the war. And you say, well, that's not really fair for you to say they like the war. Well, I think it's fair to say that when the man comes out 36 hours ago and basically said, not basically, point blank says, we will continue the special military operation militarily. Okay. When there is every opportunity right now is the opportunity to say, okay, let's talk about it. We're there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. And instead of talking about it, shaheeds are launching. The war is raging. Ukraine is defending, counterattacking where they can, like Kupiansk. This is what we have. The opportunity's there right now, but there is no truce. Peskov said that today. No truce. We're going full capitulation and peace, the Kremlin plan, or war. So that's what we have.
Just a couple more super chats, and then one thing I wanted to talk to you very briefly about that's just happened that I can see. Anna Anderson here says, like the International Brigade in Spain, I think he's talking about how people going abroad to fight in wars kind of ideologically or for moral reasons doesn't seem to happen so much anymore, maybe. I mean, this did happen at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, mind. There were a lot of people that went to join the International Legion, but that's very similar to what happened in Spain during the civil war there. Nadia Kolakowski says they could ask for volunteers only. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but I would like more volunteers from around the world to go and help out Ukraine for sure. Finally, from Michael Buchar here says, I would assume talks are fairly far along with the lifting of sanctions off of Belarus with Trump's threat to tariff Canadian potash. Your thoughts? I don't know the exact details of this, but this was something that happened sometime previously, which was the US tariffed Canada right at the beginning of these kind of trade war situations when you still had Trudeau in charge and then you had Mark Carney. Potash was being targeted, I think, and then the idea is like, oh, isn't that weird? Are they trying to lift sanctions on Belarus? What are they lifting sanctions on Belarus for? Or potash? Why is that? Or because they sanctioned Canada? It's like, so you'd rather sanction Canada than Belarus here? Like, what is going on in the world where that is your calculation? That Canada are your bigger enemies than Belarus and a dictatorship that support Russia's evil regime. And honestly, I mean, if nothing tells you anything about that tells you all you need to know about the Trump regime, I would say, in terms of foreign policy. But I don't know the latest on that, Michael, to be perfectly frank. But yeah, thank you very much for your support there.
1964 Corvair, great discussion, Greg and JP. Thank you so much. And there was, I don't know if this one got hidden by mistake or not, but Lake Living 2013. I like that comment. Actually, I'm ashamed of my country, who fights with his allies and capitulates to its enemies. Yeah. That's my viewpoint as well. So I don't know how that one got hidden, Lake Living, but thank you for that comment. Because
is it a super chat?
No, it's not. But it's a comment that I just see it over here. I love my country. I got an email yesterday from a Vietnam veteran. He says, Greg, I just wanted to send you a message. I watch you and Prof and Jay Smart every day. And I just want you to know I love my country. I am a U.S. veteran of Vietnam. It shows you how old I am. I love my country. And I'm proud to be an American. And I am too. He goes, but at the same time, I'm just ashamed of what we're doing right now. And I concur with that. And it's okay to be proud of your country and love your country, whether it's UK or America or whatever. But for me, I can only speak as an American. I love my country, but I'm ashamed of what we're doing right now and really how we look. It's sad.
So I'm really sorry. Troy Shoemaker says this to moderator. How much do I need to spend to have my question answered? So the way the system works is like I'd happily answer all questions and speak forever.
Oh,
but there's
absolutely.
only so much time. And what happens with the system is that super chats get flagged up as a different color and they come up in a different area. And so I run down all the super chats just because it's polite for me to say thanks. But I'm only one person, so I can't read all the comments while I'm doing that, while I'm also checking the news and talking to Greg. So it's like, honestly, just things just get missed. And
they do. And I'm trying to watch my chat over here.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm trying to keep updated with my news over here. And I'm looking at a map over here.
Yeah.
So we're really multitasking, trying to get it all.
Yeah. It's just, honestly, my brain can only take so much as a single human. Now, this is super, super worrying for me, Greg. And I guess
all right, let's
it's
do it.
Not great to end on a negative.
We're going to end positive.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll hit the negative and then make up some nice positive thing. No, Belgium is ready to take legal action against the EU over the reparations loan plan for Ukraine. The Prime Minister De Wever says he argues that the scheme using frozen Russian assets carries massive financial and legal risks for his country alone. And if no fair risk sharing is agreed, Belgium won't hesitate to sue.
Belgium is... I'm not an authority to speak about Belgium. I've been to Belgium many times and I have friends in Belgium, and but I'm not an expert. But just in my observation, Belgium has been going sideways for the last couple of weeks on some of their statements coming out, specifically in regard to frozen assets. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, and Bart de Wever does seem, I mean, there are some claiming he has some connections, a bit of, some previous connections to Russia. There was a thread that I sort of went through when I did a segment on this in a previous video, but there was the thread was too long and too involved in his connections to Russia that I didn't fully go into it. But I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or whether this is genuinely trying to protect Belgian interests. And there is a point that if Belgium has to shoulder all the risk for hundreds of billions, over 100 billion euros of frozen Russian assets going to Ukraine, if no other country in Europe shoulders that risk, then if Russia then hit them back, then that is a worry. So there are some genuine worries, Belgium, but you would have thought the EU would have sorted that out by now. I mean, goodness me, this has been ongoing for a long time, and they've only got till December the 18th. They've got 8 days before they have to vote on that. And then if they don't get that sorted by the end of December, right, Ukraine is screwed. Like, this is one of the things that people might have been thinking I was dooming, but you listen to everything that Zelensky says at the moment, and it's very clear that they are in financial trouble. Like, they do get a lot of money, but a lot of money is being spent on weapons and going here and there, but just to function as a government, they need that loan. If they don't get that loan, they're in a lot of trouble.
Well, you just think about this. Think about the tax base that has been destroyed in 3 years. It's all you have to think about. And yes, they are and fighting a war. But I don't think we've heard the last of this. I'm not sure that everything there is exactly as it is stated. So I'm not sure that Belgium and what they're saying, but I'm not an expert, so I don't want to say. So we'll see and wait for those.
Says Belgium is under massive pressure from the US and the EU and from bankers all over Europe. They want to preserve European banks as sanctuary for billions of dollars in stolen funds for dictators and criminals. May well be that as well. I mean, Euroclear, there are risks to giving that money up, not just from a kind of Russia might sue us or try and get it back, but also risks in terms of how that affects the financial systems and whether people are invested in Europe, if they think that the money can be frozen and just used at the whim of European politicians. So
Sam Jur with a question coming in from South Africa. Oh, Sam Jubert 998 there. Hi, Greg from South Africa. Question: except for fear, why does the world allow Putin to do as he pleases with no consequences? It's a good question.
I missed that. Sorry, I was just reading this one.
Except for
Belgium.
fear, why does the world allow Putin to do as he pleases with no consequences? There's more to it than just fear.
So it's fear of, but it's not just fear of Putin or fear of our own electorate. It's also fear of Donald Trump. Honestly, so much of what is going on at the moment is like European leaders at the moment, and we've kind of said this already, but they are beholden to lick the boots of Trump because otherwise it all goes the other way. And so there is a fear because if you annoy Trump, he will put tariffs on you, and if he puts tariffs on you, it screws your economy. So like Keir Starmer, right, we're outside the EU, so we don't have the security blanket of the EU in terms of an economic security blanket, and we then have to do our own separate trade deals. We've just done a trade deal with the US, and it seems to be an all right trade deal. But if Keir Starmer was to come out and say that Donald Trump's nuts, oh my god, what an absolute mentalist he is, we need to support Ukraine and he's gone the wrong way, then Donald Trump would turn around and say, well, you're going to have another 20% tariffs whacked on you, and then that you lose your jobs in the UK, and he loses the next election.
We want to end on a good thing, so but therein lies the problem. Donald Trump's not the United States. He's just the elected president of the United States. Sure. So what if somebody says they don't like what color suit you're wearing? Oh, well, I'm going to tariff you. You don't like my blue suit. Okay. But that's the world we're in. By the way, Greg, did you get back the guy with the anthem? I messaged him. I haven't heard back from him. That's the guy that played the anthem on the guitar. That was absolutely amazing. And we gained him a lot of views on that video and a lot of new subscribers. So yeah, I'm glad about that recommendation as well. Ace of Pac 10 Quid. Did you guys see Senator Mark Kelly's responses to Trump? He's also been in Ukraine 3 times. There's hope around the corner for the U.S. with guys like that. Yes, I do like Ace of Pac listening to veterans and astronauts who have experience actually talk about something. So yes,
he should be the Secretary of Defense. He should be the Secretary of Defense. Imagine what a different place would be if he was Secretary of Defense. Honestly, it just frustrates me. Like, he's a really competent decent human being. Like, he's a decent man, Mark Kelly. And you look at Pete Hegseth and you look at the other, so frustrating. And finally,
well, Matt Gaetz is now in the Pentagon asking questions of Pete Hegseth's drunk assistant. So yeah, listen, guys, when you put a Fox News panel and make them the cabinet for the United States president, you can expect to have a clown show.
Yeah, I
do believe and hope, though, that the tenure of Pete Hegseth will be short-lived. I know that's maybe hoping and against all hopes, but we that needs to be changed. We need a lot that needs to be changed, but that needs to be changed right now. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace.
Couple of final super chats. I don't understand why the EU hasn't made any legal arrangements to share the burden across the EU. Yep, I can't believe. I'm sure they would have done that by now, but evidently not. Belgian PM says Putin puppet. The Dereva is closer to Putin and Trump and the far right as well by telling Ukraine that they can't win. So yeah, lots of issues there. But what's the positive, my friend?
The positive is Ukraine is ripping it right now. That is the actual picture right now of drones that are headed.
I love a good drone bomber map.
So they are heading north out of Chernihiv, all the way circling around Moscow. So Moscow will be loud in a little while. They are also, we've already got Belgorod sitting in the dark tonight. They've already been hit, and Belgorod's not. Belgorod, guys, the city is located in the gap between all those red arrows. And these are heading off, it looks like, toward like Saratov and Voronezh, over toward that way. So
well, you got this as well. 300 Ukrainian drones are reportedly en route to strike targets.
Yeah. That's so
300.
That's
what we like.
If it's 300, it may be the most they've ever put in the air at one time, I think.
I've heard numbers like that before, but then you're never quite sure. But also the Russians they do quite a good job of shooting them down. That has to be noticed. The other thing, actually, Greg, before you go, is that I've talked about how quite often Ukraine send quite a lot of drones into Russia, as according to drone bomber maps and other claims and so on and so forth. And you hear sort of maybe videos, the occasional video, people looking out their window and explosions in the distance, often audio. And then you don't hear a lot afterwards. And then you're thinking, well, I'm fairly sure there's a good 200 drones and missiles that were sent in. But I'm wondering, my thesis at the moment is that it's not just about OPSEC, about them not letting people put stuff on the socials, but as each week and month goes past, there are fewer and fewer mobiles that are older and more newer mobiles. All new mobiles are front loaded with the Max app, which is the FSB snooping app that allows the FSB to snoop on your phone and everything that takes place on your phone. They've now shut down WhatsApp, Snapchat, this, that, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. All of these different apps, you can only access them. We've got VPNs, but then VPNs are harder to come by. Russia is closing the net on their own society's access to the outside world. There's even talk about incoming telephone calls now being stopped, I think, into Russia from international places and stuff. So they really are putting up a kind of virtual Iron Curtain. And I wonder whether missile successes and drone successes are not coming through, not from pure OPSEC, but from actually people are just less able to share stuff on the internet.
Okay. I can't disagree with that at all, but I will tell you there's one more reason. Russia doesn't want the world to know what Ukraine is hitting and taking out and damaging. Only when we can get the big pictures out, the big videos out. Oh, well, this refinery's on fire. It's unquestionable, but for sure, Ukraine, with that many drones in the air, some will be shot down, but some will hit their targets. They are hitting command posts. They are hitting other depot and supplies that are located in Russia. It's just happening. So, of course, Russia doesn't want to seem weak. They do not want the world to see. They don't want anybody to see, hey, Ukraine can actually ding us really good here. So there's a multiplicity of reasons that we see 300 drones come in, but then we get a couple reports of what actually happened when we see 300 drones come into Ukraine and, we see, buildings leveled and military infrastructure hit when they do hit that, or energy infrastructure. Once again, that's because Ukraine is open society and pushing it as open society, as you were talking about, the opposite of Russia, but they're also pushing it for the world to see. Look, they're hitting our buildings. It was just Chernobyl just a few days ago. That death toll is now 38 now. Yes.
So this is another one from Max 25 on Russian channels, the translation of which are rear regions from the Bryansk and Oriol regions. There have never been such a critical number of enemy drones, as in Ukrainian drones. We take precautions. Bryansk Oblast, new fixations from blah, 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 unrealistically many drones. So those are the Google translates for that. But that indicates that tonight could be a very fruitful night for the Ukrainians, fingers crossed. That's all I have to say.
I've got something for you I want you to share.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
By the way, if you can help out with anyone with our fundraiser for Ziga's Poor, atpgeo.com/donate, and that gets you to our fundraiser that we're doing ATP Geopolitics with Jonathan Fink at Silicon Curtain. So that would be very, very
and
cool.
Keep your eyes open, guys. We'll be talking, but Gertis and I will have our Christmas fundraiser coming starting. We're working on the back end now. Play this. This is just coming out from Trump about a meeting in Europe this weekend, potentially.
Some little disputes about people, and we're going to see how it turns out. And we said before we go to a meeting, we want to know some things. They would like us to go to a meeting over the weekend in Europe, and we'll make a determination depending on what they come back with. We don't want to be wasting time.
So there you have it. That's the latest. We know that the United States has received the new peace plan from Ukraine and Europe, and now we have a response, and he's responding there about Europeans wanting Americans to come for a meeting and talk about it.
I think the Kiev Post posted something. I don't know what it's referenced to at all. It was just a breaking. It was put on one of our back channels here that I'm in. Breaking Kiev Post. and it just said there may be news this week regarding the end of the war, Zelensky said. But I have no context. That's a no context
Listen,
claim.
that's the same listen, I'm familiar with that. That's the same quote that has been on every piece of media all day long with no context. I've seen that quote 1,000 times over 3 years. So no, we just have to wait and let the facts unfold. But yes, it is floating around today.
Yeah. So
Lindsay,
so remember
1050, welcome to new crew member. Thank you.
Remember atpgeo.com/donate. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine, buddy. I just want to make sure
for
we get
fundraiser and atpgeo.com UK petition for that petition as well. But they should both be in the description to my video below. Sorry, you were saying that were there a few more super chats?
I had somebody join the crew member, Lindsay 1050. Thank you to be a crew member, and Adam Round sent gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Adam.
We've got Steve Farmer. Thank you very much. Daryl Thomas. Again, guys, do you think Europe are making plans in the background without the US for the long term in Ukraine and Europe? Almost certainly. That's a really great question, Daryl. For Europe's own existence, they are going to have to be doing this. So you can bet your bottom dollar that Europe have been cacking themselves over the last really 10 months. They are going to be putting things in place. There's probably going to be talk about an alternative to NATO and Article 5 sort of internal guarantee. So there's talk about European army back on the agenda. But the problem is, and I'm going to be talking about this in one of my next videos, when you look at the national security strategy, the US is trying to so here's something. So sorry, this is a little bit negative, but it's in response to what you've just said there, Daryl. I just want to show these things. Right. Okay. So sorry to be a little bit on the negative side, but we are hearing that here it is. So we talked about the national defense, national security strategy earlier and how anti-Europe it is. Well, we are hearing, and Applebaum here says, an earlier version of the national security strategy specifically said that the US should try to pry Italy, Austria, Poland, and Hungary away from the EU, right? So already in the NSS document, you have the great optimism that the US has for the rise of patriotic parties, which is, Rassemblement National, AFD in Germany, Reform UK in the UK, and actually like the Italian government that's already in place, which is pretty right wing, right? So Italy's an interesting one. And then we heard as well, I don't know if I have it here, I might have it in the wrong place. I'm going to have to find it, but we hear that there was a really tense, because Zelensky went to Italy, didn't he? He met the Pope, but apparently there was a really tense conversation with Giorgia Meloni, and it didn't go too well. And Giorgia Meloni was siding with Trump, and that is really quite disturbing, because actually she's otherwise been really supportive of Ukraine and has been positioning herself as a really strong supporter of Ukraine. So that is a real worry. So why I say that here, Daryl, is you say Europe are definitely going to be working on things. So the problem Europe has is naturally you're going to struggle to have unanimous unity with 27 member states. And you've got Hungary and Slovakia already being difficult, but you've got the rise of AFD, the rise of Vox in Spain, the rise of Rassemblement National in France, the rise of Reform UK in the UK, Confederation and PIS in Poland, who are anti-EU, and then you've got the new Czechian government, the Czech government, and then you've got like Italy being, potentially, you've got Austria, the FPO in Austria. So it's really difficult, and Russia is promoting all of those parties, and now the United States in their national document has advocated for those same parties. So you've got this, and I'm going to do a much more in-depth piece on this, but you've got the United States and Russia are actually strategically aligned, like in a more foundational way than many people realize. And the problem Europe has is, how do they deal with that when some of their European parties actually want that? They want the breakup of the EU, which is what Putin wants, and it's what Trump wants, and it's really challenging. Sorry.
Okay, so a lot actually has unfolded during this live stream that's pushing 2 hours now. It's been awesome.
Yep.
But I let's make it very simple. Trump's ranting calls for elections in Ukraine. You're not a democracy. La 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 la. Zelensky comes back on the train, says, "Hey, we're ready. We're ready for elections at any time. This is what we have to do. This is what we deal with. We are a democracy, et cetera, et cetera." Then we get all the responses from Russia from Peskov, Zakharova, and Lavrov. Now we see that the Europeans and Ukraine have sent a peace alternative, or their version, back to DC. Now we just see Trump saying, well, the Europeans, Ukraine, well, on my channels now it's saying Ukraine, but Europeans want to meet with us, want us to come over to Europe and have a talk this weekend. At the same time, Ukraine just launched 300 drones. Sheremetyevo in Moscow is now shut down because of drones flying over Moscow. Okay. You have a war going on, and all of these things are happening on the outside of it. But when it comes down to it, I saw somebody pass in the chat, and I don't know who it was, but their comment was accurate. Zelensky is ready for a truce, a ceasefire, and let's come to a peace agreement. Russia does not want a ceasefire. Putin just said, we will continue militarily until this is over or there is a capitulation. So I really do not know all of this talking. And this is why I think Donald Trump now just says, well, we'll see if it's a waste of our time or not. Let me interpret that for you. We're going to have some talks with Moscow, and we're going to see if this is wasting our time or not, because Putin has just said we're going to keep going militarily or Ukraine has to capitulate and give up 30% of the Donetsk region. So there are a lot of factors in play here, and it's not, that's why, in a nutshell, guys, until there is a peace agreement and negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, the rest of it's just fluff. I'm sorry. They're the two warring nations. And I know Europe is helping, and the United States is trying to help, I hope. But the reality is these are not negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. These are like shuttle diplomacy. But Zelensky and Putin, they're not on the same page, not even on the same planet. So we have to be patient and just let the steps unfold, and then we can determine clearly. Whoever said that in the chat, it was going by, I completely agree with you. Zelensky wants a ceasefire, a truce, so that we can work on a peace agreement. Putin doesn't want that. That's where we're at.
Yeah. And I think it's very... it's not coincidental that Ukraine is sending 300 drones into Russia.
That's exactly
and missiles
right.
tonight.
Oh,
there's no coincidence.
Tomorrow morning, this is what's going to happen. I can prophesy this with pretty good accuracy. You're going to have Zakharova. You're going to have Peskov at the minimum. And maybe Lavrov will jump in, but we'll definitely have Zakharova and Peskov. You see, this is why we can't even talk about peace. We can't even talk about it. This evil neo-Nazi regime led by this narco Führer Zelensky must be destroyed, while we're even talking about elections and peace, and the United States doing a great job trying to get us there. They sent 300 drones at us. That's where we're at. It's not going to change. It's not going to change.
And so it seems like those drones are over Kaluga, Smolensk, Tver, Moscow, Tula,
they're rolling, buddy.
Kosovo, and elsewhere. Karen says, she says, hey Greg, this is to start a fund to send you to the doctor for that cough. So sorry you don't live in a country with universal healthcare like the rest of the civilized world. Ouch. She's giving you some Canadian lessons there in how to organize.
Thank you,
your
Karen.
Society. Right.
I love my Canadian friends there.
She's a legend. I probably have to go and pretend.
Okay, wait. Sorry, you keep me here.
What do you got to say, mate? What do you got to say?
Okay, 1 second. You've got to play this video. I'm sorry.
Another one.
You've got to.
No.
All right, you've got to play this. All right, here it comes, guys. This is the biggest bunch of crap I've ever seen in my whole life. And yes, I just said crap. Hold on, here we go.
I was just, by the way, this is James. James, who I've just.
Yeah, there's my buddy.
Right, please, all of you guys who have not done so already, every single person in this live stream now, go onto my channel and look at the video that says Azov is about a guy fighting in Azov, and that is James. I've interviewed him. I've interviewed him previously, but he's now got a different role in the Ukrainian army. He's doing an absolutely awesome job, and it's a fascinating chat that we have. Please go and check out my
saw
video.
that video. It was fantastic. I know James personally. I've had coffee with James in Ukraine and Kyiv. He dresses like Red Fox. He dresses like Red Fox on steroids when he walks in. He's a big old dude, and he walks in with his derby hat on, his long coat. I said, all right, the stud has arrived. All right, listen, everybody's accusing me now of being the long exiter. Yes, I'm the long exiter tonight. JP,
that's my job. That's normally my job.
You think it's time for Zelensky to start accepting things? What things are you talking about?
I think he has to be realistic, and I do wonder about, how long is it going to be till they have an election? It's a democracy. It's a long time. They haven't had an election in a long time. It's losing a lot of people, and it's possible that the people, if you look at the polls, I will say 82%, there was a poll that came out, 82% of the people are demanding a settlement be made, Ukrainian people.
What is he talking about? He's such an idiot.
Sorry,
an idiot.
I don't feel that good, and I just lost all my oxygen in my head when I laughed. 82%. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a lie.
84% of statistics are made up.
82% of Ukrainians want this to end now. A settlement.
93.4% of statistics are made up on the spot. I mean, just honestly, what an absolute dingbat. And then also,
he's been president a long time. Yeah, well, it's been a war. Yeah, it's been president a long time. Hey, Trump 2028. All right, let's go.
So what's even more worrying, Greg? What's even more worrying here, mate, is that
who gave him that statistic? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. That was my video. Who gave him that statistic? That statistic was delivered from Witkoff or Kushner from Putin. I don't have proof of it, but daggone it, that's where it came from.
But what's almost more worrying is that this is a brand new press conference. He had an interview with Dasha Burns. I presume that was recorded yesterday.
Yesterday morning.
It came out yesterday. Let's assume it was recorded yesterday morning as well. So that came out yesterday. Zelensky has publicly answered that and said, let's have an election. Right, let's do it. I just need security guarantees and a
brilliant
ceasefire,
move.
Right?
Brilliant move.
Which is a brilliant move. But Trump, I don't think Trump knows about that, because he's just been asked about that and he says he needs an election. He's already answered that, mate. He's literally gone so Trump is not getting briefed on. I mean, he's not getting briefed on anything.
I told you we had to see that video. It just came out. I'm going, what on earth?
You're gonna give me 82%. An aneurysm, mate. Just honestly, that man, I don't.
Look, I would happily say right now, 28 years working in Ukraine. I know James is there right now. Listen, I would comfortably say I could walk on the street and do polling in Ukraine for a week, and 82% would say kick their rear end, fight for our country. We need help. I don't know. It has to come from Russia. It has to. Yeah. And it may not come directly. I'm sure Pete Hegseth believes this crap. I'm sure Luna down in Florida believes this crap. Dmitriev is telling Luna down in Florida this stuff, and she's passing it on.
Paulina Luna, I mean, she needs. Oh
yeah, Ukraine's is flipping with this right now. 82% of Ukrainians demand a peace agreement be concluded. Donald Trump, what planet is he on? You know what? At some point, Zelensky, just stand up and say, Donald, stick it. And come on, world, help us. I'm serious, man.
But this is the calculation they're always making. So sorry, just to your point, that lots of people are going off on that. This goes back to the same point. Why doesn't he do that? Because he can't afford to, because they need the targeting from the US satellites, they need intelligence, and if Trump joins the other side, then Zelensky and Ukraine are truly buggered. And so therefore, they still have to polish his boots, and it's so bloody annoying.
Okay.
So I know.
Okay.
So people say, yes,
Dude.
time.
Why didn't we start this later? All right. Okay. So I can tell you right now, he also just answered. I'm watching this real time over here and talking to you and looking at all this stuff. All right. Listen. He just said, yeah, that war in Thailand and Cambodia broke out again. Well, I settled it and had peace again. I'll call them. We'll have peace again. That's what he just said. Now, that's not, here comes another one. Okay. This is the problem right here. Another problem. And guys, if you've stuck with us for these 2 hours, you're really getting some good stuff here. It's like me and Johnny having a talk back and forth. Okay. Johnny, play that one and tell me where the problem lies.
As you probably know, we've just seized.
No. Wait. Wrong one. But it's the right family. Wrong one. 1 second. Oh, here we go. It's this one.
What happens to the oil on that ship? Well, we keep it, I guess.
What happens to the oil on the ship? Well, we keep it, I
You have
guess.
to follow the tanker. You know, you're a good newsman. Just follow the tanker.
Do you know where it was going? Was it going
Follow
to
it.
China?
Get a helicopter and follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to
But we're
Cuba?
gonna. I assume we're gonna keep the oil.
They've literally just become like highwaymen. They're just like sanctioned.
That's called a pirate.
We can
That's
take
pirate.
that now. We can take that oil, can't we? I mean, I know it's not ours, but the ship's sanctioned, so let's
Hold
just
on, I
steal
figured
the
it out.
oil.
I figured it out. He leveled the east wing, building the ballroom. And inside the ballroom is one giant map of the game Risk. And they have blow up toys. And he's over there moving the little pieces around. Oh, well, I guess this is our oil now. You know, well, it's the biggest tanker ever. So we'll just keep the oil. I can't believe we would say that.
So I honestly sometimes I just think like Donald Trump is like almost like a child, but is so unbecoming of a president and says that he's so unpresidential, and there's no veto to him, which by the way is also part of dementia. Like, just in case you're wondering, anyone, like that lack of veto, he will just say whatever comes into his head. Yeah, honestly, it's crazy time that we live in, mate. Crazy time.
I have an update on the drone strike. Russia is now saying that it is the large. So here, guys, we're queuing you ahead of tomorrow. Russia is now saying this is the largest drone strike that Ukraine has ever launched against them ever. So this is perfectly what they're going to say. And I can show you guys this.
Yep.
Right here,
yeah,
JP.
Sorry. Hang on. Sorry. Yeah, sweetheart. Yeah, no, I was going to pick you up, but it turns out that Greg just can't say goodbye, and he keeps coming up with more things for me to talk about. And yeah, so do you mind having another couple of pints? Just have a dessert. You've had 2 courses. Have a dessert, couple of pints. Give me like another hour. Greg will probably show me another 15 videos of Trump saying something mental, and then some more news about drones. But anyway, love you. Bye.
All right.
Sorry.
So before you show the image here, Russia now reporting on TASS, RIA Novosti, all of their outlets, that this is the largest strike that Ukraine has ever done against them. Okay. And now I can show this image. Ukraine has now released jet drones and missiles in this attack. Yeah. So this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a big one. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
And I was going to say I love big ones, but I'm going to get myself in trouble. This is good news, and it's sometimes I wonder how I'm still motivated in the morning to get up and do my videos, because my schedule is fairly relentless. So I never have a day off. I haven't had a day off in like 3 years.
Dude. Me either.
And I think, am I going to run out of energy? Am I going to run out of desire to do this? Because I do this in the way that I do it because I'm so obsessed with it, and in a sense, I enjoy doing it, but not enjoy is the wrong word. Like there's a mattering to what I do. There's a meaning to what I do that means that makes me all the more motivated to do what I do. But sometimes I wonder, like I've been doing it for so long, surely I'm going to run out of that kind of magic juice. But actually, so often in the morning, I'm like, oh, I'm really knackered this morning. I haul my legs over the side because I have to lift my legs up most of the time. And then I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, oh, I've got to bloody say that. Oh, I've got to say that. Oh, I can't wait to share that with the team. Oh, I've got to do this. And I'm hoping that tomorrow is going to be one of those mornings where I've forgotten what happens right now and the news that we're going to get. And I wake up tomorrow and I'm like, oh, look at that. And it's horrible because things like burning refineries cause so much pollution and it's horrific. But actually I look at that and go, yeah, screw you, Russia.
This is a positive way to conclude and we can shut down. I'm out of juice. I'm battling a cold. But for me, the same, JP. I've worked in Ukraine for 28 years. And I worked around the world in all these crazy places. And, for you, the planets have aligned and this is your time to be doing what you do here. And you're a service to people around the world and a blessing, however you want to look at that word. And for me, the same way. I think, God has put me here to do this for such a time as this. And one of the main things, there's a couple of main things for me. I'm going to keep doing this, building community and sharing truth on Ukraine and wherever else in the world, because I know the truth about Ukraine. I've lived a large portion of my life inside Ukraine, and these people are lying about Ukraine, and I have to scream it from the mountaintops every day.
Bloody hate liars.
Donald Trump just lied about Ukraine. It's a lie. 82% of the people do not want to end the war. And even those that are against Zelensky politically stand with him as a president. It's a fact, because they know they cannot have a presidential election during a war in martial law, or the nation will truly capitulate into fragmentation. They stand behind Zelensky. When the war's over, we'll have an election. Right now, we have a wartime president. This is the facts. And I shout it every day and fight against this propaganda. And the last reason is in these channels are people that see things differently, from all different backgrounds, all different nations, all different races, all different political persuasions, religious persuasions. It doesn't matter. But we can find places to bring ourselves together and make a difference. And then you, the viewer and parts of the community, you have a value going, okay, I have a place where I can make a comment or have my voice heard. And it's gold, guys. This is where we're at in 2025, and we need to continue with it. So
yeah, as Petrag here says, you two have to do this more often. It was fun, informative, and serious. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Not obsessed, but a trooper for truth when there's so much disinformation. And this is the disinformation is rife in the world, not just in the context of the war in Ukraine, but particularly in the context of the war in Ukraine, with Russia doing their utmost to skew our understanding of the world. The pirate, JP and Greg, what you guys do is the heroes of the net.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I will say thank you to all the moderators on both channels. It's been a long stream.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Michelle Duval, thank you as well, my good man. Really appreciate so many supporters. Right. Evolution put JP here to do the great work, says Stephen Bendal. That's my kind of talk, my friend. Good to have you here, James, from Why Ukraine. And
thank you, James.
Please go and check that interview out with him, and hopefully be the first of many more. I've done loads with him before, but now he's doing a big.
He went to the next level.
Yeah. Just a few more. Stupidity in essence. You guys are the reason I can't watch mainstream news in Denmark anymore. Wow, there you go. So high praise indeed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So awesome. Okay. 82% of us think that Trump is an idiot. Well, it could well be. I would argue maybe a little bit more on this.
I saw you, James. I'll get you on, brother. I saw that chat go by.
So best spent money every month, guys. Please keep it up. Thank you to Pirates. King Raccoon said, I rue the day that I sent you that message. So King Raccoon once sent me a message saying,
Let me tell
you
you
ever
something.
you ever thought about speaking to Greg? Do you know Greg Terror? So I don't know him. And then he put us in
Well,
touch.
that's the bottom line truth right there. King Raccoon initiated this relationship, and I will forever be grateful, period. And we've rode around many times with that raccoon sitting on our dashboard running the front line. So thank you.
Absolutely. ATPGEO.com/donate. Any last things about what's going on the front lines?
No, we're caught up. Guys, all I will say is this: if you look at a map and it says gray, that means both are there. Just remember that.
And it's patchwork. I mean, lines in many of these places like Prokrovsk are fairly meaningless. It's like a sponge really often. But yeah. Right.
JP.
That's good news.
Oh,
It took me 11. It took me 11 days for me to get permission to get that interview with James done. So that was recorded 11 days ago, and I managed to put it out last night. 12 days now. So now that he's got permission, that's obviously broken the dam. So hopefully that means that he can have more chats.
Yeah, we will do that. That was
time.
very good. And I saw Pyro Kurt coming in there with the chat at the very end.
Yeah, just getting there.
Everybody's putting the love on King Raccoon now. Pyro Kurt, thanks, Greg. We stand with Ukraine, only mod for the best. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you so much.
Stuff.
Yeah. All right, man.
Well, look, thank you. We'll keep an eye on what's going on. Who knows? As someone said, JP will probably do a 1 a.m. update. I'll tell you what, if there is like things to report, I would be tempted.
Well,
sure.
Here we go again. All right, we are ending, but I will tell you this. That's important, JP. That's important because I do the same. I try to be very prompt. I don't want to rehash information that's 2 days old. That's why I start every one of my videos with this is the date, this is the time, this is what just happened. Because I want to have the timeline built there so that when people are watching on demand later, I have a lot of people watching in on the other side of the planet, like Australia, New Zealand, and I want them to know, okay, this is the time this video was made and this is what has happened, because now things can change so much in during our stream, sir, look how much changed. We seized a tanker in Venezuela, and now the oil is ours, and 82% of Ukrainians want Zelensky to quit. So there you have it. This happened in 2 hours.
I've often thought about doing just a 24-hour live rolling news channel. I'm in. And funny you said it, Greg. So I was talking about this with Benny Pie. He can't be on the live tonight, but he does a load of my techie stuff, and he's saying we could do that, mate, and you could have Jonathan Fink having a couple of hours stint, and then Greg Terry, and we could host it on a server, send it to YouTube, and he's actually thinking about doing that. Mate,
I'm down,
joking,
man.
But then actually we could have some like combined like 24-hour rolling news channel rather than bring out videos. But anyway, I'm just having a call now on WhatsApp from my missus, so I definitely have to go.
Good night, all. Be blessed. Make sure the notifications are on. If you haven't subscribed to Johnny's channel, please do so. ATP Geopolitics, or if you're on Johnny's and haven't subscribed to mine, that'd be great. The bell's on. Between Johnny and I, we'll keep you updated. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And
have a good night.
The final one for the pirate. Thank you very much. Everybody take care, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you to Greg. Thank you to the mods. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
So generously. Big love to you all. And Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава, разом до перемоги, дорогой.
What he said.
Бажаю здоров'я.
Him. There. Anyway, take care. Bye.
Great stream.